I'm going to start out and talk about, I guess, what is referred to as icicles. We can start some of these around wherever they go. There's 20 copies there, so if you don't get a copy, let me know and I'll send you the file. You can print out your own copy from there. Most of you know or heard of Robert Roseanne. He's given at least 2 demos. I think one of the first ones for this club when they first started. Another one
in my carport, Charlie.
Yeah.
Remember that?
And I've seen him give other demos as well. And he's the one that's really known for making these Christmas tree type ornaments with a globe, and then he calls an icicle, and then a little finial on here. So my goal today is to do the icicle, and I'll finish off the finial. Goes really quickly, and then Roger will show you how you really make finials.
Yeah.
So I'm going to whiz along here if I can, so I can get off the stage and let Roger get on and talk about what you probably really came to see. This particular one was made using honeysuckle, and generally you don't see honeysuckle, the vines being big enough that you can make something like this. But I was fortunate enough to find some for what it's worth, and then it's walnut on the outside, so that'll kind of give you an idea of what can be done maybe. This is a little different shape. This is more the shape that Robert Roseanne uses as opposed to the other shape that we have here, more rounded, and I'll show you some of the, I'll pass this one around too, if you didn't look at those.
If you drop it, you bought it.
Well, yes, kind of, and that's part of the reason I'm passing this one around. This one was dropped. These things are going to be dropped at least once in their lifetime, maybe only once, and then they break. So the lesson there is that you choose your wood carefully. You want to have grain long wood, not grain short. If you end up, everybody has scraps of wood, and so that's what you use to do these things. If it ends up like this, with a knot in the middle, you're in trouble. Okay. If it's grain short, you hit it like this, and it'll probably break in half before you ever get it down to what we're dealing with here. But I'll pass this one around. This one, I should have known better in the first place. The top part is just ambrosia maple, the finial on top, and this icicle part down here is spalted. It's actually the mold that starts to work inside there, and the wood is dust to dust sort of thing, and it's going back to dust. I thought, well, the black things that you read about it, the black mold like this generally still kind of has a little bit of strength to it. If it's white, it's going to separate. And on big pieces, they'll come flying off the lathe like crazy. This one hit the floor once, and I was able to repair it and salvage it. I haven't put my name on it because I'm not very proud of it at this stage of the game. But I did, and I drilled a couple little holes up in here, another one down here, and then cut off a little piece of paper clip, run the wire both ends, and glued it back together, and that one's kind of repaired. So if you see a piece of wood that looks like this, and particularly if it has a whole bunch of wormholes in it, as you'll see here, throw it away.
Thanks.
If you have, if you're looking for really good wood, I generally prefer to use maple to be the preferred, and that's this is a good piece of maple here. Sometimes with a little character to it, that's fine. The wood I'm going to be using, also like walnut, is fine. Cherry is really good, and you can use pieces that this has a chip off of it. I'm going to be using this one because I know that when I get done,
It's thin anyway.
it's going to be thin anyway, right? So you're going to throw away a lot of the wood. The key thing is that you want to have a piece that is big enough so it will cover whatever you leave on the ends here. And if you leave them flatter, like Robert Roseanne does out here, as opposed to being more rounded, which several of them that I have here, then you have to make allowance for that, and I'll show you how to do that as we get into this demonstration here. So this one I've finished, and I do have a good finial and icicle for it, but I'm going to use this as a guide, and I'm going to make another one for it just for this demonstration. While these are going around, this will give you an idea as well as to what they end up with. If they're done right, you get them and you don't even have to glue them together. They just hold, they'll fit in there properly.
That's good.
This one, the top or the finial is, it may, but it'll come off. When I'm done then, I'll take these and I use this regular tight bond glue and put a little glue around here and a little bit inside there, get them together, and then I put them between a vise. Just enough to keep them snug.
Yeah.
And the idea is that you should see no light between where you glued these pieces together. So that'll give you an idea of what we're dealing with as those go around. So I don't round these off initially. Just stick them in square, and in the jaws you want to have pin jaws like we have here, and to get it so that we're kind of centered, I poked a little nipple in the end here, dimple, just to make sure I'm kind of centered on here because this one is a little off.
This is loose on top.
Go pretty fast, Don?
Yeah, we're going to go kind of fast. Faster you turn, the smoother cut you're going to get. I'm not going to crank it up like Jimmy Clues does,
Yeah.
but we'll go faster than I normally cut, and certainly faster than what you're going to cut if you were making a bowl.
Pretty sturdy. Small piece.
That's pretty little.
Always turn after you adjust your
Oh,
that ought to be about like that.
on my old lathe.
Crank this up a little, round it up. So this is not tight. This is the wrong way. Pardon? Yeah, lay it over there. If you'll just get it out of the way. Just again. And for this, I'm going to stick my face mask on just to show that we are being a little bit safe here. But I can talk better with this off, so once I get this round, we'll go from there.
Don't mumble. You know, that comes off.
That's about 2,500 RPM at this stage of the game. big chunks out of the way there. I've kind of run this down because I know we want it to be that shape. This is going to be the teardrop in. When you say icicles, I don't think I've ever seen icicles that look like the icicles that you see in the picture here on the front. Or at least, and I've been in a little bit of cold country, better part of my life. But what I relate this to more than anything else, I guess, is high-speed photography in when an inkjet printer, for example, or drops. And that's the way you'll see these droplets form in an inkjet printer. And they actually, let's see if they come. They actually would probably, I think, come down this way. And the droplet kind of catches up with itself, and it finally gets to a point where it's going to drop off, and then another one forms from there. So that's a whole other science in itself, and there have been hundreds, thousands, probably millions of dollars of research gone into studying this sort of thing, so that when you get the droplets just the right size, so that when it hits the paper, it doesn't splatter and splash. It just stays right where it's supposed to be. So at any rate, that's that. Starting out with just a normal roughing gouge, so we're done with that now. And then the key tool that I would use is just essentially a 3/8 inch spindle gouge, since we're spindle turning. And you want to have these things sharp.
Yep.
So we'll crank this thing up. First one. Turn that off before we move the tool rest, right? That's going to be all right. There's a little wire there. Get rid of this thing without the whole thing falling apart. So you take out just a little bit at a time to get rid of the nubbins out here. This has a hole in it from the pin there, so we have to get rid of the hole. Got a little bit of grain problem there, so we'll just get rid of the whole thing. So you cut in one direction, then the other. Riding the bevel as you go down. I find you want to get these down to maybe 1/8 of an inch. If you go any thinner than that, you can make them thinner if you want to. to it as well. Roseanne makes them about this size according to the drawing that you have there. So it's a pretty long finial. And I found that it works better for me if I make a little shorter finial as far as length is concerned. And so you mark them, and it took a while to figure out just where these lines ought to be,
Yeah.
because you want that finial part. The idea is that you want these little guys to be a little larger, a little larger, a little larger, a little larger, a little further apart, so that they're optically pleasing to the eye. So make a little mark there. Obstacle course here. Spin that on there so you can see what you're going after.
Well, that means we should be able to sort your file.
Because a real wood turner uses a skew for these.
That's right. You can use a skew. I'm not a real wood turner. I'm just one of those.
Gifted amateur.
Yes.
I don't use it either. No, I use a skew more than I used to. But heavy. Real sharp. All my time. This is a big road.
I made this one already too small. I probably could start with this one. You want the tip going right down to this point right down here. When you get down there, then you just rotate your gouge so that you're not cutting into the part that is turned this way. Okay? Right in the bevel.
You gotta finish each one before you go to the next one, right?
Well, Roseanne says that's what you ought to do. I don't.
Or you can go back.
You should never go back.
Well, you can't go to that first one.
Well, you shouldn't. Never say never, never say always. There are tricks to doing this, and we need to check it as we're going along as well, to make sure, you know, I'm taking off some stuff here, and it's wrong side.
Is the thickness on there too?
Well, not really, no. That I do by guess and by gosh, by golly. I've got to take about that much more off of there. And the other thing that I find to check to make sure that they are graduating from the right size, just get an old credit card that you've thrown away. They're cut, they're pretty square with the world, and just lay it on there. And if they're done right, then this card ought to hit all the points
Straight, yeah.
going down the line. Okay. So this one needs to come back here quite a ways. Let's see, and this one, it's about right where it belongs. It's down just a little bit. Going with the grain, it's kind of like planing wood. If you're going with the grain, you're probably going to be all right. Going in this direction. If you're going against the grain, then you're likely to get some chip out there. Again, if you have a very sharp gouge time, you're going to be better off. You can probably check this while it's running. That's pretty close. But I'd rather turn them off and make sure further need to go down quite a bit. And this little guy over here is really a lot smaller than it ought to be. It's pretty close to that size there. Now you say, can you go back and do that? Yeah, if you hold your hand up here, you go back. You can clean that up a little bit without it flying apart on you. Okay? This one I want to take down some. Kind of feel like I'm working in a cave here because it is dark. I generally have a whole lot more light shining on here, but we'll wing it here and see how we do. This one then, and round this down in there. The last one. Really round, we got one little flat spot there yet. And this becomes an invaluable tool then at this stage of the game. Like I say, these little spots down here, that's down to just a little less than 1/8 of an inch at that point. I found with what these things sell for, I'd rather have them a little fatter down here than trying to prove to some wood turner that I can do things thin. Because when they hit the floor, They're almost guaranteed, I want them guaranteed that they're gonna bounce and come back in one piece rather than 2 or 3 pieces. So I make them at least 1/8 of an inch. And you'll see that in the ones that are going around here, rather than getting technically right. Then the other thing, that's gonna go on this end.
Yeah.
And this says that I have to be about a little less than 3/4 of an inch. And cracky, that's where we are, right where you want it, right where I want it anyway. So at this point, I was sanded. You want to see it sanded?
No.
Good. That gets me off and it gets Roger on there a whole lot faster.
200 grit or something.
I had a question. Bob Roseanne in his article talks about sanding and sealing as he goes up the icicle.
Right. That's what I say. I don't do it that way.
Oh, okay.
That's the way he teaches
That's the way you
and
do it.
demonstrates.
Okay.
Right.
Because his philosophy is, again, he's working on a much thinner basis than what most of us do. But he actually finishes it as he goes. Because he can't touch it once he's done or it'll pop off.
Oh, I see. Okay.
I mean, it's
Because
very
I've seen
fragile.
finials turn the same way, where they'll do this, a segment of the finial, and they'll sand them, finish them, stain them, do whatever they're gonna do, with the exception of the final finish. Dress up.
But see, again, that's each
When they're
wood
so
turner.
clean.
I'm gonna show you how to
small,
do it
yeah.
differently so you can.
Don,
go back
what
and
would
watch it.
your ornaments sell for? What do you sell?
Anywhere from $25 to $60. It depends on where they're being sold.
Mhm.
Now, I don't get that unless I'm selling it direct to somebody.
Right, yeah.
But the ones over in Monticello are selling for $60.
Okay, that's the
And that's made out of their.
Monticello poplar.
But that's the
or-
poplar,
That's
yeah,
right.
that's special,
Yeah.
special wood.
But for a normal wood, 25, 50,
Yeah.
25, 50,
25, 35.
Yeah.
Bob Roseanne gets 30 for the plain ones, and then his wife toll paints them, and they were getting 35 last I heard.
Now this, sometimes I start at 220, sometimes I start at 320 for the sanding. Now what this does is that if you didn't get a straight line down here, it's going to show up once you get the finish on it. So you kind of hold your finger on one end, one side, opposite the sandpaper. I try and rest my arm against something because these things will break off in a minute if you look at them crosswise. And you see this is fatter right up here than it is down below. And that's where the sandpaper, the 220 will cover up a multitude of sins here. And you put the finishing touch on it. So the sanding is important. Normally when I'm sanding, like on a bowl or something, I'll slow the speed down to about 200, 300 maybe at that. But this is faster for what we're doing here. And it's adequate because sand it back this way, move it back this way, move it back here, 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 and you go to the next one. Usually I'll change direction with each grip of sandpaper, so I would be turning this, I turn it around and do the reverse. Don't take much sanding to blend it out right in the first place. Now this thing, this maple is pretty solid, and the faster you're running, the more stable it's going to be on you. And I'll sand them down generally to 400, and then I'll put a finish on it. The other thing that you want to have is a nice clean, right down at this point. You want to have a nice clean departure there, and that's where your tool work is going to help you get to that point. And sanding use that, sometimes I'll back it up with just a piece of leather behind the sandpaper, which gives you more uniform than your finger is rounded. And the leather, you know, you can put up an old pair of shoes or something.
Doesn't get hot.
Pardon me?
Doesn't get hot.
That's right. If it gets hot, you know that you're running too fast. Okay? Now we got to cut this thing off here. And the other key measurement now that we want is how big is the hole? Because you need to make a tenon to go inside the hole. Okay? So it's got to be that big. Now, how do I get there? Regular parting tool. And this is kind of like making a funnel out of a bowl. To make it too small, you know, you can't get enough glue in there to make it fit probably. So, we're just about that much there. That should be just a little under 3/8. That's right. Right where I want it. Just there. That's called luck. Sometimes some people call that skill. Okay? Then at this point, I would put one coat of finish on here. Actually, I'd do that before I made the tenon here, because I don't want the finish down in here. I want raw wood for the glue to adhere to. Okay. So now I want to do a concave underneath here, so it'll match the outside of this. And for that, I use a chicken cutting tool that you can get at, where is it?
Cargill's.
Cargill's.
They're very expensive, $1 a piece.
Yeah, this is the most expensive parting tool that I have, but I use it probably as much or more than anything. And the key here is that you look for a knife that still has a lot of the broader part of the knife, and you dull the blade, because when you buy them, they're sharp enough you can trim your fingernails with them or shave with them if you want to. But you'll notice that there's a fat part, and then it starts to bevel off to where the sharp part of the blade is. And you want to have at least this point here so that it's the maximum width of that blade. Okay? So I'm just going to go in here, go at an angle like this, about what I think that's going to be. And this is where good light really helps, and then faking it. Part it off. Now, before I part it off, you want to check how deep is the hole that you have there. So you get a little gadget like this, so that you can measure. You can see in there and see how deep that is, and that's got to be a little less than a quarter of an inch at least. So we'll go down in there. If it goes in a little bit too far, that's fine. And I always slop a little more glue in there, whichever one is either the Icicle or the finial, whichever one fits the sloppiest, that's the one you glue in first. Roseanne glues them in as he makes them, according to what you're going to read there. I don't, I glue them at one time. The one that's the sloppiest, I'll stick it in there, glue around it, and then I'll go in here with take a Q-tip, take the cotton off the end of it, and you just dip down inside there and you slop a little of the glue around there to make sure that that's not going to come out of there once it's dry.
Is the hole drilled all the way through?
Yes, yeah. You start, when you make this thing, you drill a 3/8 inch hole. Yeah. And then if you want to, and these were hollowed out just the way they are.
Okay.
Roseanne makes them a bigger hole, like maybe a half an inch or so.
His are a little bigger in the first place.
Yeah, and that gives you a little bit more leeway when you're going in there with your tools to hollow this thing out.
And then you sand the inside.
That's right.
And then glue the top and bottom on them, so.
That's right.
So you hide the
Trying
inside.
to get with his fingers.
And I always camber this off just a little bit, make sure that just put a little bit of a curve on that out here, so it's easier to get it started when you poke it into the hole there in the first place.
Take one a little bigger.
And you know what? There we go. So, oops, that ought to fit. Let me see if it fits here. So I pass it around. Whoops, what's he missing? That's not bad.
Yep.
It'll work.
Good.
And it's a fit there. So before I take this off, before I pass this around and check that, and then you take measurement off of here with the finial. Now, the finial is faster than the rest of it. That's got to be
I
done.
have one, mine's just like it, but, well, I have one. And I got one with the digital readout.
Okay. Now this,
That is. Oh, you cheated. You wrote your name and everything on it before you glue it together.
well, no, I generally do it after I glue it in, but since I have the finished part in a bag here somewhere, I put it on there and then I wrote it on. So I'm going to clear the deck a minute.
Beautiful job.
Let me get the rest of this done here real quick. Goes back. Okay, I want to get a true center on this thing. I'll show you how in just a minute. We're going to use a little pinpoint on the end of the tailstock. Yeah, I need to
Put the hanger.
put the hanger on. Yeah. Hook. This out of the way.
Charlie just recently was measuring something that was turning. One of it was turning, but like a cloud was running down
But Don, you probably use a different color, right?
Different what?
Might use a different color for the top.
You can, I don't.
That's what Don does.
This is the finial that goes on the top now. Now Roger's going to show you how to make a real finial in just a minute. Now, need to drill a hole in this. I have room to do this. So, we got a drill press here, a horizontal drill press.
Separate the men from the boys.
Okay, then I would sand it. We need to sand it? No. Well, yeah, we somewhere here. Yeah, I am going to, it's got a few rough edges there. There's nothing magic about the shape or anything, it's whatever brings your chimes. This is not the shape that I really wanted to make, I would say. Some people make this round on the top with a diamond shape.
Don, wouldn't you drill the hole before you ever started?
You can.
Yeah, I would. 'Cause
Whatever rings your
it
chimes.
gets too small.
And if I'm lucky, I've got about 2 drops of C8 in here.
Well, you better not mess up the man's lathe there.
No, I'm not going to do that.
Put all that glue on it.
I don't know if I
He
need
has to
any.
demonstrate again, really, Charlie.
Oh,
No, that's more than I
it's gonna drop. There it goes.
wanted. Better drop. That's what they use for.
Turn it on, you'll get Charlie.
God, what is that? Slow it down.
And you just kind of feed that in there. A friendly tap on the end there to get it going. And off the excess.
Use a fish hook.
Yeah, fish hook works. I used to use fish hooks, and then I calculated that I can buy this 20 gauge wire at Michael's and cut them up and make my own for like a penny or 2 a piece.
Regular machine.
Yeah, okay. So that's that, and then from there, it's just a matter of parting it off, just like we did before. It's a little fatter, I think.
Where's that thing you made? Where'd it go?
Right here.
There's the ball right there.
Oh,
Goes in this end. That's just a little too fat the way it is already, or too skinny, so we're gonna leave it right there. And we'll part it off of here and we're done.
You need to hold it.
Don,
Sir?
I think Sorby, I think Robert Sorby has it like a 1/4 inch parting tool that has a little hook on it that you adjust. And you can, when you adjust that hook, you can get your diameter
Yeah,
exactly
yes,
every time without measuring.
yeah, yeah, you can use just the regular gauge that you can put in there. Peter can show you how to do that.
This is the parting tool itself.
Oh, the
has this.
the parting.
It has a hook on it,
Yeah.
and as you come down, when the hook drops over,
Yeah.
it's exactly the right size.
Yeah, no, I was just talking about just a caliper that you can put on there.
Yeah,
the
right.
size that you want to do. Before I take that off all the way, I really need to take this one in too. That's it. That's that piece that goes on the river. That's it.
Okay.
Any other questions for, while you're changing the
He didn't let you do that. You guys have